Hello, hello. Welcome into Batting Cleanup. Good to be with you. Alyssa Orange alongside Evan Kamiko, and we are happy to be here with you once again as we've got just 2 more weeks of the regular season, Evan, which is crazy to think about. But two very crucial weeks for Arkansas. We're going to talk baseball first, but no hat because your hats are behind you. You're going to have to kind of do a whoop.
No,
There
but
they
yeah, my
are.
hats are behind me. Figure this week we'll go to the Arkansas Mississippi State matchup, so we'll put those two hats behind me. I'm really looking forward to talking about Mississippi State, but we'll get there. We'll get to a
Yeah.
lot of things as well. Some crazy things going on in just the baseball world in the entire week, but let's start with softball because that's
Yeah.
the biggest story of the day.
Well, I appreciate it. Let's flex on my sport for a little bit, just because
Let's do it.
hopefully they play. Right now, they're in a weather delay as we record this in Auburn, Alabama, so they haven't even played the first game. They're the second game against Missouri, but regardless of games played, Evan, let's talk about the importance of what this tournament can do. I don't think it's going to move them much, if at all, in the rankings when it comes to NCAA tournament regionals. They're not going to be a national seed, but they'll still be a top 16 seed and host a regional next week. What I think it does is mentally inside that dugout help that confidence heading in to the NCAA regional.
Yeah, and I love it. I'm going to start with what Pat Murphy said yesterday in an interview with Alyssa Lang on SEC Network during that Alabama game against LSU. Maybe it was 2 days ago, a little blurry at this point, because all these games just mashed together. But he said that it's a new season. It starts over. Everything you did in the regular season doesn't matter anymore. So this Arkansas team, look, you had a rough end of the season. There's no denying it. You lost 2 of 3 to the worst team in the SEC in Ole Miss, and that's when you look at the records, Ole Miss was 13 out of 13 teams in the SEC tournament. They came into Fayetteville and took 2 out of 3. So right now, this is the best thing that could possibly happen for Courtney Deifel and this team is this fresh start and this renewed kind of energy of going what Pat Murphy said of this is a new season. Everything that you've done so far doesn't matter. So you can kind of drop that. And Deifel alluded to that. She alluded to that a little bit the other day in her press conference of, this is it. Like, this is the start of the quote unquote rest of our lives in a sense of, it's do or die now. And luckily, you can die with Arkansas right now in the SEC tournament, knowing that they will be a top 16 national or top 16 seed, not a national seed. Is it only 1 to 8 are technically like national seeds?
Top eight. Top eight national
top
seeds.
8 are the national seeds.
Yeah.
So either way, they'll be a top 16 seed. So I don't think this weekend makes a huge difference for them. Maybe it'll go from 11 to 12 to 14, 15-ish if they, don't win a game. If they win a game, they could jump to 10 or 9, but I don't see them getting to 8. But it's going to be really interesting, and it starts with Missouri later today.
Yeah, I don't think they move much. But again, you're right. I think that Coach Murphy was absolutely right at Alabama. I mean, Courtney said it too. She goes, it's so weird because you go into this week, and it's not that these games don't mean anything. It's just not your end goal, right? Like, your end goal is to go into regionals, win a super regional, go to the Women's College World Series for the very first time as a program. But you still got to play well because you have to kind of build that momentum. And what we don't want to see is what happened with Arkansas softball last year, where they lost that last series of the regular season to Mizzou, who happened to have the same record Ole Miss did when they came in, then lose that first game of the SEC tournament, and then kind of hobble into the NCAA regional and lose to Oregon. So it's big. It's big for them. I know that they have a lot of intentions and focus on the Women's College World Series in Oklahoma City in a couple weeks. So we'll see what happens. But it starts hopefully at some point when they finally play this game in Auburn, Alabama. All right, let's talk baseball. Got to talk to Dave today. Going with the same rotation right now in Hagan and Brady and Mason. And he said they're all feeling good. They're looking good. They've looked good. Since they've come back from Kentucky. They had some time off. They've had a practice. They'll have a practice today before playing Mississippi State. But I think that's the right call. Again, I think at this time of the year, you got to just stick to what you're doing. And I don't think you need to make any drastic changes in the pitching rotation right now.
Like, can we be genuinely honest with ourselves? This team won 40 games, and this has been the rotation for, God, what, since
the beginning.
February?
The only thing that they have switched is Mason and Tigert.
Yeah, once because of Brady wasn't doing too great and it was a tough series and that made sense. But you have to go with what works for you, right? Like that's this pitching staff and specifically the starting rotation is the strength of this team. Yeah. I don't think there's a single person on the team that won't tell you otherwise that it's the hitting or whatever. And getting to talk to some of the guys in Hudson White, Gabe Gackle, and Ben McLaughlin yesterday. So we'll have some fun stuff coming on that. I had to tease that a little bit, but even they said they were like, that is the strength of this team. The hitting will get there, but when you look at the pitching, you can't not change what's been working just because you had a rough week in Kentucky. Let's be real. We all knew Kentucky would be a bit of a challenge. Like there's no denying it. The offense left 31 runners on base. Jacob Morris and I talked about it last week in the Pig Trail show, and you're not going to win many series when you do that, but 31 runners on base, they had a chance to win that series. They had a chance to win that Sunday game, fell into a really early hole. Again, Mason Molina didn't pitch the week before because he was out with an injury, so I'd like to see him another week back into the kind of groove of things where he's healthy. But yeah, you don't change what's been working for you in the strength of your team all season. So I think it's the right move. I think maybe we'll see a shorter leash than we have with Tigert and Molina because of the emergence now of Gage Wood, which is really exciting for, I think, both of us to see, having been rooting for him for a very long time. And the only downside is you do lose Colin Fisher for the season. He doesn't have to get Tommy John surgery, which is great.
It's the best case scenario for what's going on with him, where he should be back next year.
Yeah. And not to mention, Ben Bybee is going to be able to pitch on the weekends now, and same with Dylan Carter, because you won't see them so much during those midweek games because there are no midweek games anymore. So again, you have to go with what's working, but I would expect to see a very short leash from now on for Tigert and Molina.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Again, there are a lot of guys in that bullpen that can pitch, including Will McIntyre, who I feel like we don't really talk. Again, he's kind of that guy like Gage Wood, like we don't talk about him, but he's there, and he can be there for Arkansas. And he's stepped up big in the postseason. He's proven that the last couple of years. So they've got options, and that's good. The biggest thing is the offense and getting that going. And I asked Dave today about Kendall, and do you have conversations with Kendall? He's an older guy now. Like, how much do we talk about to him with what he's going through? And, he's like, we talk to him every day. And the biggest thing I want is for him to be 100% honest with me about his health, right? Because that shoulder, when he did that slide at McNeese in that third game, is still bugging him. And it was like, it was starting to get okay. And then he hit the wall again and it started bugging him again. And it's one of those things where he was saying, your shoulder dislocates, and sometimes it just like now will dislocate at a snap of a finger because it's already done it. And it's just one of those things he's battling. He says he's feeling good, and some days he's not feeling good, but it's just more of an annoying thing for him. So what does that mean for Kendall Diggs? He wants to be the player that everyone wanted him to be at the beginning of the year. And I think for Dave, it's just like, we talk to him. We just kind of, let him know. We build him up and hope that he can turn things around.
And I think maybe giving him a little bit of rest or so wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for him, especially this weekend when you're kind of home. And again, you got a good Mississippi State team coming in. I'm excited to talk about them in just a few minutes. But when you look at kind of Kendall and all of this, just let him get healthy. Like, I think I love the conversation that he said after the press conference Friday night, where he's like, I sat down with my parents and we sat on the phone, and it was just going back to what we were doing. And I really wanted him to explore that quote a little bit more. But again, you only get so much time with these guys after a game. So we didn't get the chance to, but that's just something of being who he is. And I think the great thing about him is what I liked about his Friday night Kentucky at bat, the big double that put the Hogs in that 3-0 lead. It was a 2-0 pitch. He was able to be aggressive, got in that mindset, found a pitch middle in, and drove the ball. Like, that was something that we haven't seen him a lot, is A, get ahead in the count this season, and B, find a pitch that he can drive out to the outfield. He's been popping up a lot lately, and it has been looking good. So seeing kind of that at bat and him saying, let's be aggressive here. And again, I know that's a Nate Thompson thing of being a little bit aggressive that people online do not really like. We can talk about that again on another podcast, but I think that's a good thing for Kendall of saying, I got to be aggressive, because that's kind of his game, is being aggressive. And I think he's taking, like we've talked about the last couple of weeks, a few too many early pitches, but they're also pitching him really well on the corners. So, you tip your cap to the other pitcher, but he's got to be a little more aggressive.
Yeah. You just kind of hope he turns things around, but that's really the latest on Kendall. I didn't put this in our rundown for today, and I promise we're going to get to the log jam. That is the SEC West at the moment, really just the SEC in general. But I just want everyone to know, Hagan now has 125 Ks on the season. It's very important. He is now currently tied at 5th.
I was so off.
Oh, you were so off. I was texting him last week like, so Kentucky doesn't strike out much. Oh, well, now we're up to 9, and we're 2 innings in. So 3 innings in. So it's okay to be wrong.
That was a rough one.
It's okay to be wrong. I just say, you know what?
The metrics said otherwise.
All you have to do is say, I'm wrong.
And I was wrong.
And we move on. Wrong. It's fine. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. But he is tied right now in 5th place overall in the record books with Isaiah Campbell at 125. So his next mark is 128. I think he surpasses that. And he could jump all the way to 3rd if he gets past 128. right behind Nick Schmidt at 145. So we'll see what happens.
I'd be very surprised if he doesn't have a double-digit strikeout against Mississippi State this weekend. I'll be surprised. Like, I'll just throw it out there.
Sure. We'll see what happens. But anyways, I just want everyone to know, since we're kind of really tracking the record books too, as we track Hagen's K count, that is where we are right now with 2 regular season series left to go. So that's where we need to pick things up. Dave said something really interesting today in his press conference. He said, I think if you were to ask any coaches in the league, the teams they don't want to play right now, their answers are going to be Mississippi State and Texas A&M. We have to play both of them. That's how good those 2 teams are playing right now. He says a few weeks ago, I think they'd have said Arkansas. But he's like, I don't know if they say Arkansas anymore. I feel like they might be like, well, Arkansas is just getting by. You know, you get past Hagen Smith game, you got a chance. And he's like, that's just the reality. He's like, and I'm real. And that's where we are right now. And, you know, you got to kind of look at it and take it for what it's worth. But that's what they're facing. And when you look at the records right now and the standings with Arkansas, they're still number 1 in the West at 17-7, but A&M is a game back. Mississippi State is 3 games back. I mean, you're Mississippi State, and you're like, look, we could walk into Fayetteville, sweep Arkansas, and be right up there at the top of the SEC West standings. I mean, that is how tight things are. That's how this weekend is so big for Arkansas.
And it's funny because Mississippi State fans on March 3rd were tweeting fire Chris Lemonis. Like that I think is just the hilarious part of all of this is now the SEC West is really a 3-team race right now, and it's Kentucky, or excuse me, not Kentucky. I'm looking at my cheat sheet right now, but it's Mississippi State, A&M, and Arkansas. You have those 3 teams at the top, and this is a Mississippi State team, and we'll talk a lot about A&M next week. We have the road trip. We'll be in A&M next week, which will be a lot of fun. But you can't overlook this Mississippi State team. The thing that you can take a deep breath out if you're a Hog fan is because it is here in Fayetteville. And this team, we know this team, and we know how good this team is at home, having only lost 3 games this season at home. So we know how good the home record is for Arkansas. So that gives you a little bit of solace, just 2. So I was right on my first guess. Shouldn't have second guessed myself. But look, here's the thing is I can't wait for this Friday night matchup between Cale Stevens, who's a Purdue transfer to the Mississippi State ace right now, and Hagen Smith. That's going to be a really, really fun matchup. Because and again, Hagen has the edge. You know, Cale isn't where Hagen is, but is still a very good Friday night starter in the league. 2.77 ERA, 6-3 as of last week's stats, and also a Purdue guy. So I don't, you know, a little bit more for me because I kind of hate him a little bit more.
That's an IU flex, if anyone was curious.
It is an Indiana flex. That's a Big Ten rivalry that you guys can all learn about if you follow me on Twitter. But it's an interesting game against Mississippi State because this is a team that's led on the field by Dakota Jordan, one of probably the more fun players in the SEC. And they have some really good depth as well. Logan Kohler's played really well. He's hit 4 home runs in the last 2 series. Look, they beat Bama at home, which is great. The dude is one of the coolest ballparks that I still want to get to and have not been yet. Their number 2, Gerangelo, I don't know if I can pronounce his last name right. I think that's going to be a little hard. Sagenti? That's a tough one. Ambidextrous pitcher. They've featured him on MLB a couple of times on Sunday Night Baseball. He's really fun to watch. And Hunter Hines, the lefty first baseman. And this is going to be the dangerous matchup for Hagen, I think, is he's got 5 home runs in the last 2 weekends, and it's all off lefties. So he's absolutely seen the ball really well on lefties. Again, Hagen Smith, different animal than some of the Alabama lefties and the other series that this Mississippi State team has played. But it's a good team. It should be a really fun and exciting weekend. But again, you got to remember, I think being at Baum Walker, the last weekend home series, I think will bode really well for this Arkansas team.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's going to be interesting because, again, it just so much hinges on these next 2 weekends, not just in the West, but just in the league overall, because Kentucky coming out of that Arkansas series 18-6, so they've got a 1-game lead on the SEC as a field, and Arkansas tied with Tennessee, which could make some people cringe a little bit if you're listening, at 17-7. It's interesting, Georgia's dropped. They're 13-11 right now, so I don't really see them contending for the East. But
the thing about Georgia too, and sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no, you're good.
They're hot. Charlie Condon's hitting really well, and that Georgia team has only gotten deeper as the season's gone. Their pitching is getting a lot better, especially they're kind of starting to establish a rotation for the weekend. So that's a dangerous Georgia team that I wouldn't be surprised if they do host. And what's funny about when we talk postseason really quickly, the Fayetteville Regional is supposed to be 5 according to Get1 Baseball. The 12th seed is Mississippi State. So
yeah, I know. I saw that yesterday and I clicked. I was like, well, this makes the weekend more interesting, just, in case. And again, things are going to change. I know that's probably not going to be what happens, but when you look at it, you're like, oh, okay, this could get spicy. I mean, you mess around, you could not be a top 5 seed in the SEC tournament. It's wild what's happening here with 2 more weekends left and so many teams just right there neck and neck in both the standings. And of course, this is the last year that the standings are there where they split with the East and the West, and then they're going to combine them all next year. So buckle up, everybody. It's going to be pretty wild.
Season 2 of batting cleanup should be a lot of fun.
Yes, it will.
If we get a season 2.
Yes. So that's going to be exciting. Excited to always have Mississippi State. The Mississippi schools are always just really fun to play when you play them in baseball, and makes things really, really exciting. Moving on, it's Mother's Day on Sunday, which we always go into Father's Day in Omaha, which is always fun because it's Father's Day and it's in Omaha. But it's Mother's Day on Monday or Sunday. And so I'm taking my mom to the baseball game. We're going to be there.
I was going to ask,
my Mother's Day
what's
gift.
your Mother's Day plan?
Yep, that's my Mother's Day gift. Me and my mom are going to go to the baseball game. And then
no kids?
I told Saw and the kids that they can cook dinner for me for when I get home. So I'll have a Mother's Day meal for dinner from my kiddos and my husband, and my mom and I are going to go to the game. But
that's a very fun Mother's Day.
Yeah, I thought so. So, it'll be fun, but to take that a step further, I was able to be on a podcast yesterday with a handful of the moms whose players obviously play at Arkansas. It was Will McIntyre's mom, Ben Bybee's mom, Peyton Stovall's mom, and Colin Fisher's mom. And just listening to them and the stories that they were telling and how baseball's had such an impact on their son's life and really off the field as well, and what this team has meant in the growth that they've seen from their sons away from the game because of the teammates that they have. And they even have a mother's prayer group now where they kind of started it last year, but now it's a team prayer group, and all the parents can go and they go into the trophy room. And it was just really cool to hear them talk about not only the camaraderie that their sons have created on the baseball field, but the parents and the moms have created too. And, they're texting each other, words of encouragement and, even I think Peyton Stovall's mom was like, I was texting Nolan Souza's mom when he hit his first home run and, stuff like that. Cause they live in Hawaii and so they're not able to come to everything. And I just really thought it was cool. So shout out to the moms. It was a really, really moving episode. I have it on my Twitter. Dennis Metters is the one who does this. It's a fireside chats, hog fireside chats with him. And it was really cool for him to invite me to listen to those stories as a mom of a 6-year-old little boy. It was really cool to listen to them and the knowledge that they shared yesterday on this podcast. So shout out to the moms. We all got good moms.
And really timely too, I think. Again, like you said, Mother's Day right around the corner. And, growing up as a baseball player without my parents, my mom and my dad, I wouldn't have been able to do what I got to do and play at the level that I got to play at for a very long time, which was a lot of fun. And them just waking up and driving me, God only knows where on the East Coast, and played in New York, on Long Island, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Cooperstown. So got to go to a lot of really cool places to play baseball, and all because of them. And I'm curious for you, when you kind of look at those parents and being that, their sons are 10, 15 years down the line from Finn, what was your big takeaway from that you hope to kind of put in your everyday routine in life once Finn kind of picks up sports a little more and decides kind of the route he wants to go, whether that's one sport, whether that's 3 sports?
Yeah, I think it's about being a support system. They shared a lot of stories, but I think if you were to boil down to the heart of the matter, it was, at the end of the day, your mom. And your son is going to decide one way or the other. And it was never our choice or our right to tell him the direction to go in athletics. It was just to be there and support him with whatever direction he wanted to go in. And a lot of these guys were multiple sports athletes. They could have played multiple other sports and decided to go baseball. But it's just remembering that you're a mom at the end of the day, and how important it is to have a support system around you as a fellow mom. I'm just in rec sports right now where they throw together a team and, you have a team for a couple of weeks and then you move on, you got a new team next year, but they're going to get to a point where they're playing more organized, structured athletics where we're going to have the same kids on our team for years and years and years. And it's that family camaraderie that has really paid off the most. And so I think that was my biggest takeaway is Don't just look on the field. What's happening right there in front of you, like look around you as well. It's just as important. So it was really cool.
And that's a really cool point. And to cut into, when we sat down with, Gackle and Ben McLaughlin yesterday, and the two of them kind of said, because there's a lot of ties on this team, Ryder Helfrich and Gabe Gackle played together since eighth grade, were friends throughout high school, played on multiple club balls. So to see them kind of evolve and get to the point where they are here at Arkansas, and again, McLaughlin and Will Edmondson both were at Hutchinson Community College and both made their way over to Arkansas in the SEC. So I think that's allowing kind of the opportunities to come and being patient as a parent is in my outside view was very great for my parents, and they didn't push me to do anything that I didn't want to do or couldn't do, and that I think is the best way. So it's really interesting to hear those conversations with those moms, and when their kids are at a lot higher of a level at baseball than I ever was.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I think that was the thing too. It's just you mentally realize like, oh, my son is playing for a Division I baseball team that is competitive, and not only that, but Peyton Stovall's mom Leslie was talking about having to go through the draft process, going out of high school and deciding what he was going to do. So it was really, really touching. Hey, we got a big story to talk about real fast as we wrap things up. But we're about to have a 28-year-old former Major League Baseball player be a wide receiver walk-on at Arkansas. And this dude is a dude. Like, you watch his video and you're like, that is a grown man. I mean, he is. He's 28 years old. About to walk into the locker room at Arkansas and be a walk-on wide receiver. Monte Harris.
Is that like... I was kind of shocked when I first saw that. I initially thought it was like a joke. I was like, is
it's
this
not
like
a joke.
April
Mike
Fools?
called me today and goes, is this real? And I said, yes, this is real, Mike. So
if Mike Irwin thinks it's a joke, then it is one of the greatest pranks of all time. Even though it's not, even though it's real.
Not, it's real.
Monte Harris, it should be really interesting to see what he can do. He played for the Miami Marlins, didn't have that much of a run in the major leagues. I think he only really played around that COVID season, maybe a little in 2021, but it's really interesting. And I'll be curious to hear from him if we ever do get the chance to talk to him.
I'm sure we are.
Just about his journey and why at 28 years old he wants to go back to Arkansas and, not only walk on to the football team, but also, if he's going to pick up studying, what he's going to do, on campus at Arkansas and be a student, and why he wants to go back and do that, because that's another layer to it, right? Like, we can talk about sports all we want, but you're back at Arkansas.
He's coming to get a degree.
You have to be enrolled and get a degree. And I'm really curious about what goes through that and how kind of baseball impacted, the ability to not get a degree until, you're 28 years old. So that'll be really interesting. And I think that'll be a really fun thing to kind of track throughout the summer and the fall. And maybe we see him at Baum Walker soon.
Yeah, maybe. It'll be interesting. He was a 4-star wide receiver out of high school. In 2014, he was committed to Nebraska, but then he went baseball. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It'll be really fun. The new Chris Winkie, ladies and gentlemen. Braden Whedon. Here we go.
One more thing before we go. Yeah. Paul Skeens set to make his major league debut this Saturday. I don't know if you heard yet. I think I told you yesterday. Unfortunately, it will come against my Cubs, which is a disappointment. But if you kind of look at Skeens and then compare that to where Hagen is, I got to tell you, maybe it's less than a year from now you see Hagen in the majors, just comparing. But of course, Major League Baseball is going to blow that up because of, Livy Dunn and get all that publicity over there in Pittsburgh to watch Paul. And nothing but the best to Paul, but I hope he gives up a bunch of home runs and Cody Bellinger takes a yard twice on
Let's
Saturday.
Get a belly bomb. Woo!
We need some belly bombs. We need some belly bombs back.
I love it.
There was an electric belly bomb the other night. I'll tell you that.
Okay. That's fine. Shohei Ohtani hitting all the home runs.
Oh, I was about to say, sorry we're not the highest payroll in baseball and can basically, just buy ourselves a 2024 World Series championship rings instead of having to go play for one.
You still have to win the games,
all that money, you
Evan.
might as well just cheat the game and
you still have to win the games, Evan.
We're crowned. Yeah, I know.
You still have to win the games, Evan.
Sorry, some of us and their owners don't want to go after all of this these top talent.
All right. We hear you. You know what? Come back. We'll circle back in October. October.
PTN batting cleanup special.
Batting cleanup, postseason edition, post World Series edition. We'll talk all about it. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. We love having you every single week for Batting Cleanup. I'm Melissa Orange. He is Evan Kamiko. We will see you next week for the final regular season matchup where Evan will join us from College Station. Ooh, College Station.
Can we call it a Colt, or we're not allowed to do that yet?
Nope, not yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay, afterwards. After.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.